Despite bursting onto the NBA scene just a couple seasons ago, Tyrese Maxey has very quickly found himself in the conversation of most underrated players in the NBA. Yes, the rest of the NBA world has forgotten about the things that this bad man has done on the largest of stages in a very short period of time. Well, I'm here to tell you first thing right now that Tyrese Maxey is ready to remind some people this season and is putting that on full display in the gym already this offseason. I do want to highlight a video that made its waves all over social media of Tyrese Maxey being absolutely red hot from beyond the three-point arc in a gym workout. I want to highlight that exactly in this video here, as well as talk a little bit about why I think we've seen a changing of the baton for who runs the Sixers organization to an extent and who that very face of the franchise is. So let's get right into it here. Before I pull up the video, did want to highlight specifically Drew Hanlen shouting out the context here. Drew Hanlen, of course, the trainer of not only Tyrese Maxey, who works with several different trainers, with Chris Johnson, who's Tim Martin as well here, but has been Joel Embiid's guy. And I do think it is relevant to note that it is cool to me that that relationship in itself was brought directly through Joel Embiid. That Joel said, you need to work with Drew, and Drew Hanlen, awesome dude. I've met him once. I have his book, got a chance to talk to him for a little bit. Very appreciative of how cool he was with me and really the way that he sees the basketball universe here. The Pure Sweat family is really his brand there, the game skills that he works on. I have a ton of respect for the things that he brings to the table here, and do think guys like Joel Embiid wouldn't be nearly the player if it were not for Drew Hanlen putting in the work along with him. But he highlighted a little bit of the context of the situation, in which he says, for context, Tyrese Maxey walked in the gym and I asked him how many threes he could make out of 50 without warming up. He said, give me 3 practice shots. He made all 3. And then I'll make 45 out of 50, which is exactly what he did. Elite NBA shooters don't miss in an empty gym. So to pull up this exact video right here, did want to pull up Maxey directly so we can see him with the empty gym. We got the warm-up shots to start. So first warm-up in, second warm-up in, and third warm-up automatic as well. So we knew that he knocked that down. We get a little bit of a speed-up video here. And you can see just not missing. 10 for 10, 12 for 12, 13 for 13. All 15 of his first. Didn't miss the first one until his 17th shot attempt there. Through his first 20, he is 20 of 21 through those first attempts and still just knocking him down. You can see the repeatable form, him getting to his spot. Look at Drew passing him the rock there, them really getting into it. And I love this level of competition in a workout setting with Maxey specifically here. I do believe that these drive guys like Tyrese, and I think that he is thriving in this type of environment. So still just knocking him down in this video here, up to 33 out of 35 before missing another one. We can see getting closer to the end here, 34 for 37, him feeling it a little bit, the arms getting tired but still pushing through and still making a ton of three-point looks. So as we get closer to 50, once again 53 will be the total because of those warm-ups, of which he connected on 3, and Maxey ultimately finished up to bang that one and hit the final one to go 48 for 53 here. I do think this is a reminder of just how good every NBA shooter is, and Tyrese Maxey surely falls into that conversation here. This always brings me back to the quote, the Brian Scalabrine quote of, I'm closer to Michael Jordan than you are to me, which is absolutely true for the general consensus when talking about basketball ability there. Tyrese Maxey, walking right into a gym for the first time on the day, can just knock down 90% of the shots like that. It always blows my mind, and it really would, especially when I was doing the beat reporting job for the Sixers. When you watch these guys warm up, man, it's absurd. Like, they just don't miss. Like, the Joel Embiid warm-up routine, he would have 20 shots on the floor that he would go to. For starters, he does not come out on the floor until there's about 15 minutes until game time here. He runs through, takes 20 shots, and then he sits on the bench and gets ready to play. There would be games where he would go 20 for 20, not break a sweat, and then be ready to warm up. And even guys like Georges Niang was a dude that I really appreciate watching his warm-up routine. It felt like he just straight up didn't miss. Andre Drummond looks like he is red hot, electric, cannot miss from the three-point arc when he's shooting in an open gym in a warm-up setting. A guy like Isaiah Joe, who was always very cool with me too, he used to do his warm-up routine before games where he would only count makes if they were swishes, that if it hit any part of the rim, did not count as a rep, had to redo it there. And I always thought that was kind of cool as well. So my point in here should not be breaking news to anybody, but NBA basketball players are very good at the sport of basketball there, and Tyrese Maxey is a guy who I think's fallen off the map a bit more than should be the case. Now, to highlight why I think things are cool is we've been beginning to see this change of the guard this summer. That obviously VJ Edgecombe coming in, that Jared McCain, a part of that youth movement. Tyrese Maxey finds himself a little bit in this middle ground that yes, he's the co-star to Joel Embiid. Yes, he's delivered on the biggest of stages to the fullest effect. And by the way, do not let these numbers be forgotten that in Tyrese Maxey's last 10 postseason games, we're talking 31 points, 10 assists, 29 points, 6 assists, 30 points, 12 assists, 29 and 5, 33 and 6, 28 and 3, 37 and 7, 28 and 10, 29 and 7. These are absurd numbers for a guy who is still in the early part of his developmental career. That there's a lot of NBA basketball players I feel like are thrown in the conversation of they could do things that Tyrese Maxey has straight up already done. And I know that last year was a disaster by every single definition you want to throw its way. But to reflect purely on what Tyrese Maxey brought to the table here, 37.7 minutes per game, 26.3 points, 6.1 assists, 3.3 rebounds, did take a little bit of a dip in efficiency, shooting just 43.7% from the field and 33.7%. But when you factor in the amount of workload that was thrown on his plate here, I think that is beyond an acceptable reason to acknowledge a bit of a slippage there. And to kind of run through his full stats on a year-by-year basis, that it is pretty directly correlated. I do believe we're going to see a shooting efficiency leap for Tyrese Maxey just because of the different shots that he's going to be requested to. That it is not going to be as much hero ball as was necessary to be the case when he had no clue who was suiting up around him on a night-to-night basis last year. Now, the three-point percentage is primarily what I wanted to highlight here because I think these are so directly tied to shot selection, not anything to do with the skill. We just watched that dude knock down 90% of their shots in an open gym there, a little bit above that if you want to add in the practice. But when you look at it on a year-by-year basis, this was the book on Tyrese Maxey coming out of college, that he was not a good enough shooter at Kentucky, shot below 30% at the collegiate level. As a rookie, shot 30.1% from beyond the three-point arc. Then fast forward, he puts in the work in the offseason, shot 42.7% from beyond the three-point arc his second year. That was top 5 in the NBA from a percentage basis. Flash forward to his third season in the league. Even better efficiency on higher volume. Connected on 43.4% of his three-point attempts on 6.2 perimeter shots per game. Then, flash forward one more year where he's really looked at to be the guy, where he cracks his first All-Star game, is attempting 8.1 three-point attempts per game, still connecting at a 37.3% rate there. That is still very solid. You take that 10 times out of 10. Then last year is where the wheels fell off a little bit, 9.2 three-point attempts per game and connected just a 33.7% rate. I am completely confident that if Tyrese Maxey can be a bit more reasonable, and this isn't even his fault, this isn't a critique at him, it was the constructs of the team that this is a criticism of, but if he can be a bit more reeled in on what those shots are that he takes, there's no doubt in my mind this guy's going to be one of the best shooters in the entire NBA. I think he's that good of a three-point shooter and that good of a talent, and I don't think it is recognized as such. When, such as was the case last year, that Tyrese Maxey is asked to do everything in the offense as far as create shots, generate looks, have the ball in his hand, all these kind of things, that's not going to be the numbers that we do get from him. I do hope there's a bit of a change in that regard where shots are created for him rather than all of his three-point looks needing to be, double step back, hit a tween, whatever the case may be to get to his specific look. Now, with Maxey overall, one of the things that I think has been crystal clear since he came to Philadelphia is the way that his maturity is well beyond his years. And this quote really fires me up about his response moving forward, that he was asked about this developing young core here in Philly. And he says, quote, "I'm just happy to be the leader of that young core. One thing that I'm going to implement from day one is that we're going to work. I had VJ and Trendon Watford in the gym this morning at 6 a.m. I want to keep it fun. I want them to be happy, but we're going to compete. When we get on the court, our goal is to win." And I do think it is very cool that this is the foundation of what he's building here, that we see him leading this team, showing up to the Sixers facility before 6 a.m. with a bunch of guys. This is not normal behavior from a 25-year-old kid right here. This is a guy that gets it, that wants to be great, and is on the pathway to doing so, regardless of who is with him or against him. That is who Tyrese Maxey is, and I do think that we are at the stage that it is time to officially declare it. Yes, Joel Embiid is still here. Yes, he is still under contract. And yes, on his best nights, he will still be the best player on the Sixers roster. But it is time to declare Tyrese Maxey the face of this Sixers franchise, because that is exactly what is happening. That the change of the baton has been passed here. There's been a change in the guard here. That Tyrese Maxey is the guy for who the Philadelphia 76ers embody to this point. That youthful energy, that hardworking sense, these are characteristics that we need to embrace, that this Sixers team needs to embrace, and I do ultimately think will be the case as the season progresses here. I think this offseason has been a great start. I love that he's in the gym working, and I have to imagine, if I have any clue about what makes this guy tick, that sitting at home during last year's playoffs had to be the number one motivating factor that you can even imagine there. So we will see what next year has in store, but I think this time next summer, we're going to be having quite different discussions about what caliber of player Tyrese Maxey is. Not just all-star, but fringe all-NBA could be the level that we're speaking about, especially if the keys are entirely passed to him for this season, which may very well be the case depending on what the outlook is for the aging veterans. But let me know if you guys are with me in the comments on Tyrese Maxey's outlook here. I do not see enough praise and excitement about what this guy's going to be on the court this season. We need to be fired up and be ready for what can be an absolutely stellar year. I think he catapults into a whole nother tier of conversations, and I'm ready for that to be the case. So let me know if you guys are with me in the comments. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. If you have not already, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button to us right here on Sixers Digest. Drop a like on this video here. I'll be back. Talk with you next time. Peace.